welcome. It's so lovely to have you here. What are you working on at the moment? Give us a catch up on what you've been doing in your art world.
Jackie, I've been mainly trying to film myself for online classes, which has been an incredible challenge and not very easy, I found out. I thought it would be super easy, but it has a lot of issues in terms of sizes of files and learning how to edit and try and make it fun. And when you kind of crop things, you tend to crop the bit that you didn't want. And, you know, so I've cropped things where I've accidentally cropped the part I wanted to keep. It's been a very interesting time, Jackie.
Bill, after you've filmed your art classes, you'll be able to do a little online course about how to film people making art classes, because you'll be an expert. Yeah. So this is going to be for people who want to learn how to paint, is that right? And we can put some details down at the end as well for people who are interested.
Okay, thanks. It's for people who would like to do a watercolour picture from home.
Okay.
And just to learn the steps. But, you know, ideally, Jackie, I would love it to go to regional kids maybe affected by the fires or who don't have access to art classes.
Fantastic. That's brilliant and really important. I think it's so important for kids, people in general, to have access to some sort of creative outlet, especially in the time that we are in now. So I can see behind you one of your beautiful works. I think one of the signature things about your artwork is the colour and vibrancy that you have in your art. Has that always been part of how you create?
It's really weird because I hardly ever wear colour, but when I paint, all this crazy colour comes out, and I think I must be a colourist. I don't really have a great understanding of colour. I just pick whatever I love and put it together, and I often have to pare it back because there's so much colour in what I create.
Isn't it? So is that like a common thing? Like you'll finish it and you'll look at it and say, oh, hang on, too much even for you, and pull it back?
Well, for me, there's not too much colour is probably never enough.
Okay.
But when I paint flowers and things, I try to paint, well, I have painted some white flowers and things just to kind of pare myself back a bit and not go so crazy. But I'm itching to paint flowers and just go crazy and do it my own way. So.
Because you do paint a lot of flowers and nature, animals.
Faces. I do have my favourite topics. I'm always drawn to the same thing. I think, are you always drawn to the same thing or not?
Yes, very much so. Definitely. And faces is a big one. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so you do beautiful faces.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So yes, you do portraits, and I've seen some of your portraits, and they're beautiful. And once again, we have that colour that's coming in, and patterns as well. Like there's, you always seem to incorporate a sense of design and pattern in your work. I'm interested in your comment about too much colour. I mean, why is it too much? If you're loving it, why is it then too much?
I think sometimes you've got to have a resting space in a painting. And I think if the whole painting is shouting at you, it's kind of like, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. So I think it is interesting, like, I'll just move my head that way. See that bit in the middle where it's dark and it's just a little bit more peaceful than the rest of the background. And it's a bit hard to see because it's not a really sharp photo on this Zoom call. But yeah, like I just love a bit of vibrance, really.
We can get the idea, and we'll show images of your artwork whilst we're talking as well. But I love that word, well, 2 words, resting place. I think that's great. It's a great sort of, it almost gives you a sense of peace within all the vibrancy. It's a bit like life, isn't it? That we have vibrancy in our life, but within that we have to have some little bits of resting
balance, really, isn't it? Resting place provides the balance of loud and quiet.
Now, you've been teaching for many years as well, and that happened quite organically for you, didn't it, to go into the world of teaching? Some very lucky kids out there, by the way, because I'm obviously very familiar with your work with kids, and you're an absolutely brilliant teacher. So, but anyway, tell us about...
We should say, Jackie, and thank you for those compliments, that I started working for you.
You did start working for me.
You taught me a lot about teaching younger kids, because I was a year 12 teacher, so
it was quite different.
Unprepared for the craziness of young children.
I remember that first week when you taught, and we were chatting afterwards, and I remember you saying it's so different, and being surprised by that difference, because it is so. I mean, well, it's adult, because year 12's pretty much adults, really, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right. They don't have the same energy. Younger kids are so frenetic and energetic, but they're also not wanting to spend too long on a piece. They're like, finished, done.
Yes. I remember one of my favourite phrases with young kids is, if you can still see white on your page, you may not be finished. Keep going, because you're quite right.
But then they say to me, I can't see any white.
Yeah. It's difficult when you get that sort of response, isn't it? So, yeah.
They do make you laugh though, don't they?
Oh, they do. They bring great joy to you. It's fantastic. So, yeah, so how did you get into teaching in the first place? Because you were certainly teaching before I met you.
Well, originally I started teaching at St Leonard's College in Brighton for 10 years as the graphics teacher. And then I decided I wanted to be a little bit more than just teaching, because I became a year 10 coordinator. I felt all I did was tell people off for a living, and I didn't enjoy it.
No.
So I took a year off, and I ended up for 10 years going into all different industries, banking, fast-moving consumer goods, and I worked in communications, PR, advertising. It was great. I was just so lucky to fall into those opportunities. And then I ran a literary festival, which is, I think, when I ran into you at Bayside.
That's right, yes.
And then I started, because I was part-time, doing a little bit of teaching for you. But in the end, I decided to leave, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And I had a couple of girlfriends' children come and paint with me, and then their friends came. And so I had one class of 4 kids, and that was in 2013. And it just kind of sprung from there. It was an accidental business, Jackie.
I think, mine as well. Mine was an accidental business. I think sometimes that just happens to you, doesn't it?
I think it's wonderful, because you can't plan for an accidental business. No. You just roll with the punches.
You do. I've always loved the quote that life is what happens whilst you're busy planning other things.
Yes, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's very, very true. So, for your teaching, what if you were to have one piece of advice to young people out there, or any age people out there? Really, I don't know why I'm saying young people, because teaching is for everybody, isn't it? But what would you say has been one of the biggest things that you would say about teaching as a piece of advice? Terribly phrased question on my part, but you know what I mean.
I think I do know what you mean. I think what you're asking is what advice would you give perhaps to teachers that are coming into this profession or starting their own business? I've got a few things I would like to say, actually. One of them is the learning's in the doing. So it's a bit like learning the online classes. Your first online class or your first workshop is never going to be as good as the one that you do 20 down the track, where you've kind of sorted out some of the issues. But a lot of people are quite forgiving. We're hard on ourselves, but if you do your best, and it'll always be okay. It'll be good enough. You'll always be good enough. So don't wait to be perfect. I'm a recovering perfectionist. So I've learnt over the years, and I do teach it as well, that sometimes you've just got to let it go and let it happen and be happy with what it is. So if you make mistakes and things, you can embrace that, because if it is a failure on some part, that is the best space for learning. And if you're not making mistakes, I don't think you're growing as an artist or a person. And don't wait for inspiration. If you think, oh, one day I want to be an artist, or I want to run workshops or whatever, action is more effective than just thinking about the goals that you want. Start doing things, move in the direction.
I could not agree more. I think that's probably the best advice you could give anybody in anything, really. It doesn't matter what industry you're in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
give it a go.
Yeah, that's
And
fantastic.
be kind to yourself. And
well, it's clearly...
What if you're not learning?
Yeah, that's so true. It's clearly worked for you because you've managed to create an absolutely fabulous business for yourself where you're working, you know, within your own time, your own schedule. Yeah. And you also, you know, it's complementing your own art practice, which has just come along. I mean, it's been wonderful seeing your art and everything that you're doing, Ali. It's just gorgeous. And I think you have just the right amount of colour, I'd like to point out.
But then look, there are, like every other job, there are the downsides. You know, as you know, there's a lot of prep, planning, cleaning, tidying.
Yeah, there is that.
So, you know, there's never the perfect job, but it is really lovely to work for yourself, isn't it?
Oh, it's the best. Working for yourself, I don't know that I could not work for myself, to be honest. Ali, you have been so generous with your time. You are a beautiful artist and a beautiful person as well. Where can people find you? You've got a website, so where do we...
alihillart.com.
And now Ali is double L?
A-L-I.
Oh, single L. Okay.
L.
No double L.
And I've got Facebook and Instagram, so you can have a look at what I'm doing, and I'd love to see people come along and do some stuff.
Fantastic. And we'll keep an eye out for your online classes as well, because they sound absolutely fantastic.
Thank
you, Ali.